Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Morgan, and today we're going to be doing a double review for two books that are pretty big physically and here kind of on Booktube. Like literally heard about this because of Booktube and Sarah J Maas, huge fan base, which yeah, people love it. Or they just don't like her writing, but this one was definitely a little bit different, I feel like, than her other works. So we're going to talk about both of these here today and try not to babble on and make this a super long video because, yeah. The first book that I got finished with was Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I don't know how to say his name, and I know I've heard somebody else say it, but yet. Normal disclaimer here, I suppose. Names will be mispronounced. Just gonna throw that out into the ether. In The Shadow of the Gods, though, it is a fantasy that is slightly Norse inspired. It feels Viking-ish. It pulls a lot from the history of what we know of the Viking culture and their gods. But in this one, all of the gods, though, were more animal or mythological animal-y than human portrayed. Like, here on the cover is Leifrika? See, names. Who is the dragon god, obviously, and she is the daughter of the big god Sneka, who is the father of all the gods. And several hundred years ago, 300 years ago, the gods went to war. And in it, when Sneko was killed and fell to earth, it destroyed the world, pretty much. It caused land masses to crumble, oceans to come in where there didn't used to be an ocean. It changed their world. And they know that the gods were real because there are remnants of the gods still within their world, such as where Sneka fell, there is still his skull, and that has become like a big port city and everything. And anything that is a remnant of the gods still maintains a little bit of the gods' power, and they are able to kind of use to do things throughout their world. There are also, their gods were shapeshifters and could transform into human shape. So there are descendants of the gods, lots and lots of descendants. But because the gods destroyed the world, any descendants of the gods are treated as slaves. They're collared and called thralls. That's what they call them in this book, is thralls. And they just live a very bad life because everyone hates the gods, hate that they destroyed the world and how they treated humanity. So any descendants, even 300 years later, people have no choice who their ancestors are, they're still slaves. Most of the people's abilities, though, that are descended from gods are minor shape-shiftiness. Like, they can't fully transform into a creature. It's just they take on the attributes. Like, if you're a descendant of Ulfa, the wolf god, you become very aggressive fighter, very fast. Your hands get like clawies. You pretty much get this red haze over you when you're fighting, and you're just angry. You're gonna fight to the death, pretty much. And they're very strong. They become much stronger. The descendants of the snake god, Sneka, are mages. They possess magical kind of abilities. And there are other mages, though, that are not god descended. They are trained, and their magic works differently, and they are actually, they're accepted in society because they're normal people and just worked for the magic. Our book is told from 3 points of view, though. We're first introduced to Orca. She is a hunter-trapper, more so. They have a farm, but mostly they deal in pelts, as her and her husband and her son live kind of in their own steading more than in the village. When you're introduced to her, too, she is a very brusque kind of character. She's gruff, she's stern to her son because you're introducing them on a hunting trip, and she's being very, very stern with him because her outlook of the world is it's a very harsh, cold world, and he needs to be able to learn this to take care of himself. He's 10. You can tell that Orca loves her son, but it's just her showing it is different. She's a very stern mother because she had a rougher time growing up, so she's trying to prepare him for in case she's not there. And her husband is a good counterbalance to her. He, they both had that same experience of roughness and not knowing their parents so much, but he believes, that he's 10 and he should be able to be a kid because he has a thought that he wasn't able to be, and he wants his son to be able to have freedom to be a kid for just a little bit longer before having to realize how cruel the world is. So it took me a while to like Orca. Definitely a hard lady who takes no crap and will murder her way through an entire village if somebody is keeping something from her. Second character is Varg, who was a former thrall, and when you meet him, he is running, but he doesn't consider himself an escaped. He's like, I was supposed to be freed. They lied to me, and now I'm just gonna take my freedom. And I loved all of Varg's story, just seeing how he changed and how, even though he was like a my age-ish person, he had never left the farmstead hardly where he had lived, and so the whole world is new to him. Everything is new, and how he ended up meeting the Bloodsworn, like the name of the trilogy. They are a mercenary group that gets hired to go settle disputes or go catch the god descended that are causing problems, and his whole interaction with them, and I loved that storyline. Loved it. And then a few chapters later, we are introduced to Elvar. And she is a very sure of herself person. She is with another mercenary group that is called the Battleground. And she's worked her way to being quite high in their ranks. And she pretty much just, that's made her confidence soar, which she's not. It's not that she shouldn't be confident in her abilities. She's pretty good at, the fighting and the thought process of how to lead people and actions that should be taken. But her thought process as in what's really out there in the world, what she knows to be true, she just doubles down on, well, if I ain't seen it, there's no proof of that in all of this long time, it's not a real thing. Or those are just fairy tales. Yeah, so I didn't really like her storyline all that much. It did get interesting, but I didn't really like it very much. I didn't like reading from her point of view a lot because she was just kind of an irritating character, I guess. Overall, I liked the book. I think, though, it was very hard for me to connect to the characters. So it was a little different than reading it because I just could never finally connect to the characters and just get sucked into the world. Even though it's a very detailed book, like everywhere they go, it's in great detail so you can see this picture of the world. But it was still a good story, and I'm totally going to read the next one at some point, especially because the ending to where all of it just, connected together, that was great. And what you find out at the end, I really enjoyed that. That was really good. I liked how he did that. So yeah, gonna continue on, and hopefully in the next one, because the groundwork of the world is already laid out for us, that we will get to maybe, I don't know, do character better, and I could get that connection to the characters in the next book, I'm hoping. Because of that though, I couldn't do a 4-star on this one. So it ended up being a 3.75. Yeah. Still gonna continue on. I'm not gonna say that this was a bad book because it was really well executed. I just couldn't give it 4 stars. I really debated, guys. Like, really debated. After Shadow of the Gods, I read The House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, which was great. I'm just gonna say it. I really like this one. I knew that I would probably like it because I liked her ACOTAR series. The Throne of Glass series is, I haven't finished that one yet. I'll get around to it. But this one was on a whole nother level from ACOTAR. Like, that one, you know, is real big with the romance part in it. I mean, it's got, of course, its storyline, but the couple of things, that's kind of big. This one, though, it's got a little romance where they start out, they really don't like each other and are forced to work together, but then they end up liking each other when they find out who the person really is, not who they act like they are. But this book could be okay without that. Like, its story is good enough without that to be great. It was good. And the biggest love thing in this book isn't even the romancy bit that's there building. It is the love between Bryce and her best friend Danica, who, they have this sister-like bond from the moment they met as roommates in college. And it was just wonderful how her faith in Danica was there through the whole book, like until about the end, which made no sense really, where she let someone, they were telling her stuff and she finally started to believe the lie. And that's a spoiler. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, I didn't like that, because how are you gonna have faith in her for like 550 pages and then, actually let them spin that web and trap you in it. In this book, though, it is huge amount of character types. Like, it takes place in a world called Midgard. Sounds familiar, right? And the ruling peoples are the Asteri, which are gods pretty much. They're starborn peoples, and they rule over in angry power all the lesser peoples, what they consider lesser. And lesser is like everything. The angels, the fae, the shifters, the mer people, vampires, reapers, witches, lots and lots of people. Like, at the beginning of the book, because this one's called, well, besides the fact that it has a map, The Four Houses of Midgard, and it tells you what's in each house classification. So, and like you'll notice, the second book is called The House of Sky and Breath, and I'm guessing that there's going to be all 4 books in the series continue that, as each book is going to be named after a different house. That's another thing I didn't like, is we couldn't show people as, different from how they're characterized in so many books. Like, so many books have angels as better than thou, even though technically they are second rung to the Asteri, but they are the generals, the governors, the people who rule over the lessers in all of the world. Several hundred years ago, though, some of the angels did rebel against the Asteri and their type of government because they didn't feel that it was fair, and those who lost are called the Fallen, which one of our main characters, Hunt Athalar, is one of those fallen angels, and he would be quite powerful except for the witch's tattoo on him that clamps down his powers. And him and Bryce working together is, wow. Yeah, they definitely do not like each other at all from the moment they meet. She thinks he is just this alpha male, and she doesn't like him. She doesn't like the persona he puts off, which it's almost not a persona. I mean, it is kind of a shield around him, so that nobody really sees him as vulnerable, since he is pretty much a slave right now. And everybody sees Bryce as the party girl that she was at the beginning of the book, because she doesn't let people know that she's pretty much a walking ghost after a very horrific thing that happened at the beginning of the book. And then, so from the horrific thing, we jump forward 2 years, and that is where our story really takes place, as Bryce and Hunt are forced by the governor pretty much to start working together to solve this case of murder. is it a murder that happens? Yeah, I think so. That is similar to something that happened 2 years ago that pretty much devastated Bryce's world. But because of the similarities, he's like, you are uniquely qualified to help solve this case, even though you are an antiquities dealer. But she is half fae though, so she's, you know, not just some weakling human, generally. It's still, yeah. But the story of them going to solve this case and figure out what's happening, why these things are happening, was great. And you learn so much about the history of the world through this, and the different types of peoples, and how the politics work and how they interact. It was just, I really liked this book. And the indie bit, oh my gosh, that was different. That was really different. And the epilogue though, oh my god. Yeah, I'm glad the next one is out, though I probably won't get to it for a minute, because that raised so many questions. So many questions. So this one was a 4.5-star read. I read this in 2.5 days, I think. Both of these books, though, I'm so glad that I read them, or finally read them in one of their cases, because they were good. I wish I could have enjoyed Shadow of the Gods a little bit more, but thankfully they both already have the next one out in their series, so that I can get to it as soon as the TBR dice lets me. And I would recommend these for anybody who wants a big story, because while the Shadow of the Gods was very detailed a lot, it does have a big overarching story that's going to reach through this one and should be into the next two, since it does say it's a trilogy. And I can't wait to see how things progress in that one. But if you want the big fantasy mystery aspect, where there is a big story but it's kind of like in the background behind the mystery and the unveiling, you pick up House of Earth and Blood. Yes, both of them were great books, and they're just different books. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with me while I babble about our latest reads. If you are new here though, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like seeing me babble about my book reviews, or you like bookish unboxings, vlogs, general bookish talk content, please consider hitting the subscribe button and joining our growing little community. Or comment down below, let me know if you've read these books, if you like them, your general thoughts, or something you would like to see me read for you to review, so you know if you want to pick it up. Yeah. I do spoiler reviews most of the time. This one I didn't. Try to keep it a little bit shorter since it's a 2-book review. Thank you to everybody who has been subscribing and watching and supporting. I can't believe how much we've grown already this year. Thank you guys so much. And I hope you guys are having a lovely weekend, and I will see you later. Bye.